Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the first time that almost all of you are getting to know how to write a literature review. So today I'll take you through one literature review paper or article. It's just like any other journal article. So it comes with all the sections that you know, introduction, and then an aspect of definitely the abstract will be there, introduction. Then you move to the methodology. From methodology, you go into the resource section. And then from the resource section, we move on to the discussions. And from discussions, we do conclusions. And just like how you write all other papers. So it's not something different. A literature review paper is just a normal journal article paper. But the question is, how do you go about it? So today I would like to take you through the sound part of it. And then we do some searches together just to help you out. And then you can do the same with your paper. But as I said, we are going to use a paper that I wrote, a topic that I wrote about, which is related to electric vehicles, which Sharon is currently working on. And I think if Sharon, you can take it up, you can get a PhD offer on it. It's a topic that is still has not been researched, but even on the global scale, it's still, a very interesting topic that people are interested in. It's a very interesting topic that many people are interested in. So I will encourage you to take a look at it later on in your pursuit for PhD. Yeah. And it's about electric vehicles ready buildings. So let me give you a little bit of a background. So here in Australia, and even in Ghana, I know the government has started doing it. If you do a little bit of Google search, getting to the end of Nana Addo's term, the government, like the vice president then, Dr. Baumia, was going about talking about electric vehicle buses, EV buses. And these EV buses and cars is all about cars that don't use the normal fuel, the fuel that we know, the one that currently that generated a war between Iran and America, and in some parts Venezuela and America to the same. So the world is moving to a stage or a point where we don't want to use that. We don't want to use fuel, but we want to use electricity or other sources of energy like solar panel generated power, or electric, which is hydro electric power. You charge your car, you charge your buses instead of putting fuel, the normal fuel that we know, into it. So as I mentioned, the government of Ghana has started getting to the end of Nana Addo's term. That means somewhere 2023, 2024. So if you do a little bit of a Google search, Ghana has started the same. Around the world, like Australia now is a big thing because here in Australia, many people use electric vehicles. From Tesla, now most of the electric vehicles are coming from China. China is so much into electric vehicles. They produce a lot of electric vehicles. So in bringing this, there will be a need, or there's a need for people to charge automatically there's a need for people to charge their cars. And in charging their cars, it's not always the case that they will go to, so what's the name? Sharon, what you are currently doing, there are two types. There's a one which Sharon is researching into now, where the people will go to electric vehicle charging station. And this station could be any place, any public place. It could be just like how we go and buy fuel at a public place or at a point. So that's what Sharon is currently researching into. But there's also one which I think currently, not I think, but that's the truth. In Ghana, it's not that popular or common. Even in Australia, it's now that the government is rolling that thing out. It's called electric vehicle ready buildings. It is part of the larger infrastructure, the electric vehicle infrastructure. And with that one, it's more connected to residential homes, our residential, where we live. We create an avenue. We build when we are building our houses or when we are constructing our houses and we are constructing our office buildings. We create an avenue, a section of the building where people can charge their cars. And that is termed as electric vehicle ready buildings. So that's called, but as I said, it's part of the larger electric vehicle infrastructure, which Sharon is researching into now. Yeah, so I did a general review, and in this general review, I want to extract 2 papers out of this, but for the meantime, I'll start from the part which is a bit easier. Then later on, if we all have time, we extract another one later, not now. I just want to start with you with one. I think by the time that we are done with about 2 in the future, you'll be fine. So as I normally do, the easiest approach or the easiest way to go is to go about it looking at the barriers, which is the risk, and then the success factors, which are the determinants to things leading to people craving for or accepting electric vehicle ready buildings. So yeah, so that's the background. If you want to read more about electric vehicle ready buildings, you can read more about that. I will not spend that much time because of the time. We don't have enough time. But if you really want to read about what electric vehicle ready buildings is about, and also even going into the electric vehicle infrastructures or charging stations, you can read more about that. Okay. And the question that somebody will ask is, why is it important to me? It's important because almost everyone here, you are a construction manager. You are a construction manager in the sense that you are learning to become, or you are into it already. So definitely, one day, you'll be forced to do something about this topic as the world is changing and moving faster. What should I say faster? Very fast. Or turning into an IT friendly era. So it is good you get to know this. It is not that common now, as I said, but as the world is moving so fast, the time will come where it will become very common in Ghana that every building that people build, they have to create an avenue. There must be an aspect of the building where people can charge their cars. In Australia now, it has become, I would say it's moving into mandatory. All new buildings that are being put up, you have to create an avenue where people can charge their electric vehicles, especially these residential apartments and all that. Yeah, then the government is giving grant incentives to project managers, to construction managers, to owners, building owners, to make sure that there is an aspect of their building where people can charge their vehicles. it's an interesting topic to the extent, and it is so new to the extent that this journal that this paper was published is a very top ranked journal. And to be honest, I'm not trying to say like the paper was not, but the paper, even when we did this paper, it was like we were trying to look at some few stuff and then we put something together. But it went through the review process very fast. They accepted it. And the reason why they accepted it is part of it has to do with the topic being something new and very relevant to contemporary discussions on construction management. So the journal is a very high ranked journal. This Journal of Building Engineering is a highly ranked journal among construction literature or within the construction literature. Yeah, so that's it. Any question on the topic? Then I move into the sections. Anyone? Is there something that anybody want to understand?
Doug, I have a question. So
yeah,
this your paper, electric vehicle paper, I've read it. I think it's a systematic review paper. I've read it. And my question is, in Ghana, for instance, this kind of concept, in fact, this emerging technology here is limited. Let me put it that way. Yeah. So if let's say you're conducting a study, will it be advisable to limit it to Ghana? Because how are you going to get a data?
Yeah, you can limit it to Ghana and you make it more like your study should be about the potential. How should I put it? Like it shouldn't be something that has been done for many years, but should be like, for example, you can conduct the potential barriers, the likely, but if this thing become common in Ghana, what are the potential risks, the potential challenges? That's how you go about it. And then the success factors, for example, you can also look at what are the potential, what will drive or what are driving. But one thing that you need to know is that this thing, you need to know that already is in the system, just that it's not common. And people have started working on it because I've read a number of papers that people have, quite a number of papers that people have written about this in Ghana. I think, yeah, and most of, as I mentioned, most of the papers, they look at it from the point of, yeah, you see this paper? The impact of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So people have started working on it, but the issue has to do with how people have looked at it. Some of these papers, when you read, you see that the people who wrote the papers, they are not from the construction industry, or even if they are part of construction industry, they look at it from a point. But those of you or those of us who are into construction management, it is better we take, it's just like when the concept of circular economy was coming into the scene. You know, people did studies on construction management, circular economy, but they were looking at it from different areas. So it took some time for people, especially some of the professors in your department, like Professor Kofi Ajekum and some of the other people that I know, for them to take over the concept and apply it in the construction industry. So the same thing applies to the electric vehicle. I know some years to come, this thing is going to be something that everybody wants to write something about. But by the time that some of these people will get there, we have gone ahead of them. Yeah, so that is how you go about it. You can actually, the truth of the matter is that you can take any concept and look at this realistic assessment. So this one, somebody tried to look at the realistic assessment of electric vehicle policies in Ghana. So I think if you go through this, maybe the person will look at it from maybe only transportation or something, maybe or manufacturing, but not specifically to buildings or infrastructure. So That's it. And definitely, when you are going to do a topic like this, be prepared to know that you will not get many studies. So what you have to rely on is you can be relying more on news items. It's also a form of literature. You get my point? So you have to be relying on news items like this
Please,
because it's a
in,
norm, it's
in,
new. And once it's new, yeah, okay, continue. Sorry.
in this country, if supervisors are found like if you cite news, they said is questionable and it's not a reliable source. I remember we were doing some studies, even though I justified that it's good. I used some of your papers to even justify that you have cited maybe news, and then they said no, it's not. It won't be credible. You have to change it. Go and get more good reference from good
Yeah,
scholars.
I get them, but at the end of the day, it's also come down to the source of the news. For example, if the news is coming from an international organization like UNDP, you can't say it's not credible, or UN, or IMF, or World Bank. You can't say it's not credible. So it depends on the source of the news as well. So you need to also check because there's not any news too that you have to also pick it up and then put them into your work because some of the news, remember some of these social media platforms that generate our news, they are not credible. But if the news is coming from GBC is a credible government-owned media organization. What they say, most of the things that they put out there is straight from the government. GBC, GTV, they work basically for the government. So, like if you look at this statement, the government is developing. So you need it's about the type of news. I disagree with them by saying that you can't rely on the news. You can rely on news. It's a major. In fact, there is a. I mean, not there is. There are literature review papers I've even read where the reviewers focus on the contemporary issues happening around the world, where they use news articles alone. They didn't even rely on journal articles. Okay, that will take me to something that Emmanuel will answer later on as to where do you get information? Where do you get literature to undertake the literature review? I will answer that. We have different types of literature. I'll answer that when we get there. Yeah, so I will help you out. We have different types of literature. I'll answer that question to you. For example, another example I want to say, if you take a news item like Xinhua or something, Xinhua is a Chinese government news item. It's actually a state-based news organization. That is it, the China government sponsored this Xinhua or Xinhua. Like if you take another news organization like Al Jazeera, is the Qatari government sponsored media organization. For such organizations, when they put a news out there, it cannot be disputed. But if you take maybe like News Ghana, you see, maybe some of this thing you not even find is for this kind of news, this is more like somebody's this thing. For these people, you cannot rely on them because it's kind of not even credible. Even here, I cannot get access to it. Right. So for such, you can't rely on them. But the ones that are credible globally with a track record of publishing credible news items, you can cite them. It's acceptable. CNN, Fox News, ABC, Al Jazeera. These are well-known, credible international organizations, media organizations. You can cite them. Okay. But don't rely on some of these. Now there are a lot of social media. I don't want to mention names because I don't want to put myself in any trouble. That we all know. Yeah. I used to write for News Ghana when I was doing my masters. I used to write articles for them. And one article I remember I wrote for News Ghana is about this lady who was a musician who got accident. What's her name?
Ebony.
Ebony. Yeah, I wrote one article for them that time when she died, and that article generated a lot of. I still remember. I have what I wrote on my laptop. Yeah, something I said. I used to work for them, but for that news media organizers, to me personally, I will not even cite them. The reason being that is they don't have that kind of over the years that kind of track record of being credible, and even sometimes some of their news items disappear. You can't track some of their news. So for such, I will not encourage you to cite. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Now let's come back to the main thing. So briefly, that was the introduction. I've given you the introduction.
I have a question.
Okay, ask.
I read your paper
Mm-hmm.
and you cited City News.
City News. Yeah, City News is also credible.
Okay. But when I went to check the reference, it was a video.
It was a video. Yeah, you can reference a video.
Okay.
Yeah, literally. Okay, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that when we say source of information or source of literature, it's not always the textual one that you know. It's not always the case. Anything that can prove that you have evidence to, a video, or even do you know even the lecture that like this lecture thing that I'm just that I have not reached that point yet. If one day, by the grace of God, I become a professor, a well-known professor where people cite a lot and all that, and I've become well-known and I have videos. You can refer to my videos in your citations. Like some of these well-known professors who are popular and they have that kind of fame. Their videos, I'm talking about their YouTube videos. You can cite them. Yes, it's acceptable. So videos can also be cited as a source of evidence or source of information for your work. Okay, please let me go into. I always start with methodology, and so normally out of the research topic or based on your article's topic, you get your research objective, and then the aim and the objectives, and you move on. That's what I'm going to teach you guys today in the next meeting. But let me go straight to the methodology, which I want everybody to pay attention to. And this is where we'll answer one of the questions that Emmanuel asked. So in trying to undertake your literature review, there are so many methods over the years, but there's one I want to teach you. And once I teach you that, you can apply the same and modify it to other methods, because you see other approaches, other ways of going about conducting a literature review. But the one which is very popular, well known in all fields, is by following a certain protocol, a certain process. Remember, it's a protocol, it's a guideline, it's a process, it's a guiding principle, something. It's not that you have to follow it or you have to like strictly go by everything in it. It's a protocol. And this protocol, who set them up? So this protocol was set up this guiding protocol was set up by a number of scholars or scholars all over the world. And this protocol has been tested and approved by scholars all over the world over the years. That protocol, and I guess some of you have heard it before, is called a PRISMA, the Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Reviews, PRISMA. So after today, just do a little bit of research and read about it, but I'm just going to take my time to take you through it. So the current PRISMA guideline, the updated one that we are currently, everyone is using around the world, is a 2021, 2020. So the version that is currently everyone is using around the world is the 2020, the year 2021, the updated version, which is being used around the world. What is it about? So once again, as I said, the PRISMA guideline, the aim is to guide you as to how to conduct a systematic literature review. Okay, to guide you to go about. So as a guide, it gives you what to do, maybe from this, from that, and that. Let me try and get the guideline for you. So when you search for PRISMA guideline, it will take you to, they even have a website, okay, where you see and then within the website, when you just check the PRISMA checklist. So this is actually this is the guideline, the PRISMA checklist. So just like any checklist, we'll see exactly what I was trying to do with you, where when you want to write any paper, any article, you must have your title, you must have your abstract, introduction, methodology, just like articles that you have seen, results, discussion, conclusion, and all that. But as a guideline or as a checklist, it gives you how to go about it. In other words, it can trying to tell you what to do at each point in time. But don't forget, this is not like by force. Nobody's going to put a gun on you and kill you if you don't go exactly like this. But I mean, generally, these are the things that we see. Okay. So normally when you conduct your research following the PRISMA guideline, you have to attach what this thing called the PRISMA checklist. So for example, in your title, you report, in your paper, where can we see the title? Maybe the title appears on the first page, page 1. Page 1. Where is the abstract? Maybe the abstract is in page 2. Introduction is in page 3. Methodology here. That. Okay. So it's a guideline. I want to repeat it again. It's a guideline telling you that these things must be in your paper for you to have a good literature review paper. And as I said, once again, these guidelines are almost the same as what we see in almost every paper. It's not something different, but there are some differences which I'll take you through. Okay, so that's it. So take notes. If you want to get, we'll come down to what they also have a flow chart. I'll come to the flow chart, but I just don't want to jump. I want to do it step by step. So please get that PRISMA checklist. It's made up of 27 items, as we saw on the list. 27 items. Yeah, these 27 items. Okay, 27 items. They must be in your paper, but it's not compulsory that every item or everything must be there. They are all not supposed to be there. Some you have some there, some they are not there, and blah blah blah. So just for you to understand this, so everyone here, PRISMA guideline. PRISMA is a guideline. I have heard people saying, I'm conducting literature review, I'm conducting research using PRISMA. PRISMA itself is not a methodology. I want to clarify this because I've heard this misconception and some people say, I quite remember talking to someone, the person said, oh, I'm using PRISMA. PRISMA itself is not a method, it's a guideline. It's a guide. having a guide is different. Okay, good. So I followed the Prisma guideline. The next thing I did was that I looked at my research objective. But as I mentioned, always your research objective or your research questions come from the research topic. So in this case, I went ahead to set, not to set, but restate or reinstate my research question. Okay, so basically here we are trying to look at what the critical success factors. So you mentioned, so that's the first, actually that's the first step. That's the first step. All these are more of like introduction, Prisma guideline and all that, more into that. But the first major step is for you to restate your research objective or research question. One of them is the objective or question. So here, according to our introduction, our aim was to what? To identify the critical success factors on electric vehicle ready buildings. Based on, so that's the first step. Based on the research question, we extract what we called the keywords. So out of the research question, you extract the keywords. So what keywords can you take from the research question or objective? Very easy. The keywords that you can see from here include critical success factors. 1, 2, electric vehicle ready buildings. Or you can separate them, electric vehicles and buildings. So I mentioned a list of relevant variants of words. So that's what you have to do. Please, everyone take note. So first, you need to have your research question or research objective written down. And out of the research question or objective, you have to extract keywords based on, and always it is good for you to work with 1 or 2 objectives when it comes to literature review. Literature review, don't state so many objectives. I'm talking about the main objective. Don't state too many. Because if you state so many objectives in literature review, you may end up not doing the right thing. May not get the best out of it. So here, these are the keywords. So comprehensively, I expanded the keywords by stating that the keywords that I'm going to use for the literature search include electric vehicle, and you can also, if the electric vehicle, you have similar words to represent electric vehicle, you can mention that. So EV, electric vehicle, is the same as electric cars. Electric cars with asterisks and all that, EV cars. So that's the first part about the electric vehicles. Okay. Then the buildings. So I use words like buildings, building, build. Okay. So yeah. And then, well, the reason why at a point, in this case, I was supposed to add the critical success factors, but the issue with our set, which I have to admit here, is that when we added the critical success factors, you almost like you will not get any paper. Why? Because it's a very new area and people have not done much studies about it. So even though our aim was to look at the critical success factors, we decided to get the entire, even with the entire this set, we even got few papers, entire electric vehicle and buildings papers. And out of that, we extract our critical success factors. Out of that, we extracted our critical success factors. But if you are conducting a study on something which people have published a lot of papers on, like circular economy, people have done so many studies on critical success factors. So it's easier for you to put in all the 3 major keywords here. Okay, good. Let me continue. So the next thing, so 1, you state your research question or objective. 2, you come up with the keywords. The next thing is that you have to go and put the keywords into one of the bibliographic databases. to search and do the search. So you can put it in the Google Scholar, you can put it in the Scopus, Web of Science, Ipsos Hoots, PubMed. So just like how I taught you the other day on how to do a search, probably let me go there and do a little bit of a search. Just a search. In your case, you don't have access to so many, so I think I will assist. I will assist you to get articles because you people don't have access to Scopus and all that. Do you have access to Scopus in Kenya University?
I can't pay, so we are
Not
taking us out.
Good. So I'll help.
I used a friend of mine from University of Johannesburg.
Okay. So I'll help in terms of the search. I'll help you guys. Okay. So this is just an example. So when you do a search like this, you see the papers coming out. But I mean, this is Google Scholar give results to anything. But if I was to search it in Scopus, the results will be fewer. So no wonder Google Scholar is giving us 77,400, but actually that's not the case. Yeah. Okay, so something like this, I'm just saying, I'm going to do a search like this. This is what we call a search. You are searching, so you see the keywords, you put them into the database and you do a search. Okay, so you have to say all these things in your write-up. So we did a search in all these databases and also you need to justify the reason why you are using this, because we have so many we have different databases. The ones I have stated are not the only databases that we have. Plenty. So you need to justify why you decided to, or you guys are searching your articles in only maybe it's Google Scholar or Scopus or Web of Science. You need to justify it. So we said these databases were selected because they have a wider coverage of research publications on the subject matter. The selected databases are also commonly used by researchers in the construction and engineering field to conduct literature review. Okay, so I have given a justification of why we use these databases. Now, the next thing. So don't forget, 1, you state your research objective. I want to repeat it again. 2, you come up with the keywords. 3, you do the search. When you do the search, you get a resource. So initial outcome of the search in all the databases give 2,063, inclusive of peer-reviewed journal articles, books, short notes, gray literature, which I'll explain to you, and then and that's it. Okay, so I've given the resource. So we are done with the search strategy. So it has completed. Any question on the search? So the search, we have results, because when you search something, you have to get results. So we did a search and we ended up with 2,063. That's the first step. Now let's move on to the next step. Before anybody will ask a question, let's move on to. Okay, ask.
No, Deborah, do you have a question? You have a question? You can go first.
Doc, is it the same papers on the papers on Google Scholar? Are they the same papers on Scopus, Web of Science?
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
they are like
good.
different.
So I get your point. Yeah, you have a very good point. So what we are going to see is that there's going to be something that we call duplicates, because some of the papers which are in Scopus, you see the same thing in Web of Science, and you see the same in Google Scholar. And that's even how come we have this large resource. Yeah, and I mean, normally that's the case because the papers published by Google Scholar, the papers published by Google Scholar are the same papers published by Web of Science, and they are the same papers published by the same, because they are all databases and they all store I think they store, not they store the same. So we will see the same thing. So the papers which are in Google Scholar, the papers which are in all these things, we see the same thing in the other search or the other results. So they are called duplicates, and we will see how we deal with duplicates soon. Yes, Ima?
So my question is, this with regards to the search, the site that you use for the search, the Google Scholar, Scopus, and Web of Science, do you have a limit, like the number of search engines you're supposed to use? Can you
Okay,
use one? Let's say
yes, you can use one. So you should use at least one. One is acceptable. But if you are going to use one, you have to really give a very good justification. Even with the ones that I have used, I still went ahead to give 2 justifications or 2 reasons why I decided to use this. So if you decide to use, let's say, Scopus or Web of Science or Google Scholar, you need to give reasons. And I would suggest about between 2 to 4 reasons why you think that database is so important or is so good for your search. You need to justify it, because if you don't justify, anybody can attack you. They will just rubbish your work and say that you have done something like you have done a half-baked stuff. So you must justify, or you have to justify. But it is recommended that you are welcome. It's recommended that you do the search in many databases for you to have a better resource, not only better results, but also for comparison's sake. For comparison, because there are some of the articles too that will appear in some databases that will not appear in other databases. So yeah, okay, let me move on to the last 3 quickly, and then we go into the class. The next thing is for you to set what we call. So after this, please everyone go and read this. I'm going to help you out week by week. We are not going to start writing today, but I think after the second meeting, which is next week, then we start writing. But for the meantime, you can be reading. Just consume this paper and consume only the methodology part. Don't look at the other sections. We'll get to the other sections later on. Now, the next thing that you have to put down is what we call the eligibility criteria. Some studies call them inclusion and exclusion criteria. It is important in literature review, and going by the Prisma guideline is a very important section. This is where you set what are you going to include and what you are not going to include in your search. So currently we have a search outcome, right? So many papers. So the question is, which one are we going to include and which one are we going to delete or remove from the list? Because I've already even mentioned to you that some of the studies are duplicate. They appear in 2 or more databases at the same time. Duplicate. Good. So you start setting. So here this is what the criteria that we said. We said papers that will be included first, the articles whose titles and abstract did not address EVRMs were removed, but articles that portray the EVRM were kept. So that was the first thing. If there is any article that we check the title and we check the abstract, we read. And sometimes some articles, it's just a word or one word that just appeared in the article, but actually the paper has nothing to do with what let's say circular economy. And then somebody has written a paper about supply chain, something, the studies about supply chain and all that. And somebody would just chip in circular economy. And then because this one is a software, it will just pick that paper up But if you look at the content, especially the title and the abstract, and you go down, you see that the paper actually has nothing to do with circular. It's not really talking about circular economy. It's just the paper is about supply chain, but they just mention something like circular economy in there. The one or two words appeared in there. So that's why we said this too. Secondly, the choice of document type and source were limited to journal articles and grey literature of reports and thesis. So journal article. So if the article, the search is not a journal article, but rather it's a book chapter, it's any other thing, we take them out. We concentrated on journal articles. And I hope by now you know what a journal article is. Journal articles are articles published by journals, right? You should know this. And I've given you the major journal hosting sites like Taylor and Francis, Emerald, Elsevier, Springer, Sage, MDPI. These are the major journal hosting sites. If an article is not like that, it's not coming from these ones, we take them out. And then we have something that we call grey literature. Grey literature cover things like reports and thesis. I mean, later on, I will explain this again to you, right? So we went ahead by saying that all book chapters, book reviews, conference papers, opinion pieces, and opinion pieces on the source of articles were excluded. So you need to, so here is, so the question that somebody will ask is, do you have to follow any standard? Here, we don't have any standard. It's you, the researcher or your research team, the people that you are conducting your research. You have to set your criteria. Your inclusion and your exclusion, you have to set it. So there's no one way of going about this, because you read my article, I have my criteria. You read another article, they have their criteria. So that's how things work. The third criteria that we set was that the choice of language in the assessment should be English. Any paper that we see which is not in English, because sometimes when you do the certificate in schools and other things, some of the results that will come out, the papers are in Chinese, they are in German, they are in other languages. So those papers, we take them out and we keep only the ones which are English. The fourth one is that a document is included if the content from the introduction to the conclusion cover the subject matter. This is also important. Last, the article must cover the subject matter. And when I say subject matter, in this case, our subject matter, or what we are trying to look at, is electric vehicle ready buildings. So a larger, I would say more than 50% of the paper must talk about that. If more than 50% is not talking about what you are trying to research into, it should be taken out. So all articles outside the subject matter were excluded. And we all know this. When you start reading an article, you see whether it is covering what you are trying to research into or not. So this is a criteria that we set. And based on this criteria, we apply it to the resource. And then, yeah, I think there was an editorial mistake. People didn't change this. The resource actually was 53,784. But they made a mistake here. Anyway, so the resource, the initial outcome of our resource was 53,784. And let's go with these ones. So if you add these results, it should give you the 53,000. I don't know why we changed this, but they didn't. Anyway, we can't go back. So the initial results here, this one is wrong, but the 53,000 is the correct one, because when you add the Scopus figure, the Web of Science, the ProQuest, and this, it should give you that 53,000. Okay, so this is the 53,000. Now we are going to apply quickly. Our time is almost up. Now we are going to apply the criteria, the 4 criteria that we set at stage 2 to assess the 53,784 set outcome from section 2.1. What we did was that we imported all the 53,784. Yeah, we use EndNote, but another place that you can import your items into is you can import them into Excel. If you don't, you are dealing with fewer number of papers, or Mendeley or any other platform or software or whatever. You can, if your papers are not many, if you are dealing with maybe 200, 150, 70, you can put them into Excel. Unfortunately, we don't have time today, but next week I'll do one for you. Like we'll do example and show you from Google Scholar, for example, and how to export them into your Excel. Okay, so we put them into the EndNote. And what did we do? The first thing that we did was we did a duplicate abstract and title screening. The goal of the duplicate assessment was to ensure there were no studies that appeared 2 or more times in all the bibliographic database, as I said. So the duplicate led to the deletion or removal of 21,482 document or articles. So out of the 53,784, we saw that 21,000 of them were duplicates. In other words, they appeared more than 2 times. In other words, the same article was appearing in all the other databases. So duplicate. So any article that appear more than 1 time, we take it out. So this is 2 or more times. So duplicates were removed. What next? So we were left with 32,382. Afterwards, the first eligibility criteria set in section 2.2 was applied. And with this, the focus was on the title and abstract. By doing that, by screening that with the title and abstract, we removed 19,458. And once we reduced that, the 32,000, it came down to 12,844. What next? Then we apply the second criteria again from the eligibility criteria that we set in section 2.2. The application of the next two eligibility criteria from section 2.2, that's the next two, produce 28 suitable articles for the analysis. The documents that were removed to attain the 28 were 12,816. So when we apply the next two criteria, 28 articles were, and I've stated them here. So can you see source of article, language, the content? So when we apply all that, 28. Good. And this can be summarized on a diagram that we call the Prisma flow chart. So when you are conducting your study, this must be there. Unfortunately, we have to end. Let's end here. I'm sorry, because the other class, the time is up. We will continue next week. It's an interesting method that I want everybody to learn, and it's easy to learn and it's easy to understand. Yeah. Okay. Please, we'll continue next time. Next week.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay, quickly.
So the end note indicates the duplicates.
The end note will show you duplicate. Yes, it will show. Let me show you one quickly. Let me show you one quickly. The end note will show, and the same thing applies to this thing too. If you are using Excel, it will also show. The Excel will also show that there is a duplicate. When we say duplicate, as I said, the thing will just appear 2 times, or 3, or 4, or something. Can you see my screen quickly? You can see,
No.
Quickly. Okay, so over here. Yeah, so you see the 10, like, okay, have you seen this one? The one
Yeah.
I've had. Yeah, you can see that how it's appearing how many times? 3 times. So this is an example of a duplicate. The same thing appearing more than once. And if you go through my list, and I have so many duplicates, but I have not gotten time to remove them. So, for example, this paper too, so many duplicates appearing about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So with this one, I have to remove 6 to maintain only 1. That's what we call duplicate. The 10 appearing more than once on the list. Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. See you in the next class. Let me go.
Debbie.